Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita Deep Analysis BY Heaven.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are embarking on a deep dive into a very specific verse. It might seem small, but it's incredibly powerful, wouldn't you say, from the Mahabharata.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those verses that acts almost like a spotlight, you know?
Oh, a spotlight. How so?
Well, it quickly introduces us to some really key warriors, figures who are, well, destined to play significant roles in the huge conflict that's about to unfold.
Right, the Kurukshetra war. And for this deep dive, we're drawing on specific source material?
We are. We've been looking through notes, research, and really focusing on a close analysis of verse 6 from this foundational text.
Okay.
And our mission today really is to unpack this particular verse. We want to peel back the layers, understand exactly who these warriors are that it mentions.
And it tells us about them.
Yes, what the verse specifically highlights about their capabilities. And crucially, we need to dig into the meaning, the real weight of a very important title that's applied to them, Mahāratha.
Mahāratha. Okay, I'm already intrigued. Let's get into this. Verse 6 then. Our sources really emphasize that this isn't just any shloka, it's described as potent.
Potent is a good word for it. It seems designed with a very specific purpose in mind.
Which is?
To serve as a highly concise, yet really impactful introduction. An introduction to some of the most significant participants, just as things are heating up for the Kurukshetra war.
So it's efficient storytelling, no wasted words.
Exactly. It doesn't mess around with lengthy preambles. It just gets straight to identifying these key figures right at a pivotal moment in the whole narrative.
Okay, so who does it actually name? According to the source material we've looked at.
Right. The material highlights several individuals, or sometimes groups of individuals, who are explicitly mentioned right there in the verse. Let's list them as they appear.
Sounds good.
First up, we have Yudhishthira. That's Talakay in the original Sanskrit.
Yudhishthira. Okay, maybe not a household name like some others from the epic, but clearly important enough to be mentioned right here.
Precisely. He's put front and center in this introduction. Then, following Yudhishthira, the verse names Uttamoja, written as Etamesho.
Uttamoja, got it. Another one brought right into focus by this verse.
And next, this one might be a bit more familiar indirectly. The sources point to Subhadra.
Oh, Subhadra.
Now, our established research and the source material itself clarify this reference pretty clearly. Subhadra specifically refers to Abhimanyu.
Ah, Abhimanyu. Okay, yes, the son of Subhadra and Arjuna.
That's the one. A name most people who've encountered the Mahāratha will definitely recognize, known for his incredible skill and, well, his tragic fate later on.
So this verse includes him directly right at the start. Interesting.
It does. And finally, the sources list Draupadi. That's need tier.
Draupadi.
Yeah.
That sounds like it refers to Draupadi.
You got it. As confirmed by the source material, this term collectively refers to the sons of Draupadi.
Ah, right. The 5 sons she had with the 5 Pandava brothers. The Upapandavas.
Correct. So think about it. Verse 6, in just, a handful of words, brings these 4 distinct groups immediately to our attention.
Yudhishthira, Uttamoja, Abhimanyu, identified as Subhadra and the sons of Draupadi.
Exactly. And the sources really underscore this point. These individuals are presented as significant figures. They're crucial participants whose presence, whose capabilities are important enough to be highlighted right here as the epic sets the stage for the war.
They're not just background characters, then.
Not at all. They're singled out from the multitude.
And the main way the verse signals their importance, their fighting ability, is this key term. It applies to all of them.
Yes, this central term, Mahāratha.
Mahāratha, in Sanskrit, alaya. And you mentioned some sources use a Telugu rendering, too.
That's right. Kulugvardaka is also used in some of the material we looked at. And this title, Mahāratha, it's absolutely pivotal. You can't really grasp the weight of this verse or these warriors without understanding it.
Okay, so let's unpack it. Based directly on the sources, what does Mahāratha mean?
The core translation, consistently given, is great or powerful chariot warrior.
Great or powerful. Not just any chariot warrior.
No, definitely not. Other sources elaborate a bit, using terms like mighty chariot warrior. The emphasis is on that greatness, that might.
So fighting from a chariot was common then, but this title sets certain warriors apart. What does it actually signify about their abilities? What makes a Mahāratha great or mighty according to these sources?
It signifies, well, a peak level of martial distinction. It's a rare and highly respected status on the battlefield.
Okay, a high rank.
More than just rank, it denotes supreme combat skill, exceptionally high fighting ability. The sources consistently link it to individuals who possess great valor, great bravery. They're seen as fearless, formidable.
So highly skilled, powerful, brave. Sounds like the complete package for a warrior.
Essentially, yes.
Hmm.
They're the definition of highly skilled and powerful warriors within the context of this kind of epic warfare.
And the sources seem to emphasize one capability in particular, something really specific that defines a Mahāratha, setting them apart from, say, ordinary warriors. Something about odds.
Absolutely. And this is a critical detail, you're right. It distinguishes a Mahāratha within the kind of hierarchy of warriors described in these ancient texts.
What is it exactly?
A Mahāratha is considered capable of displaying tremendous prowess in battle. Often, in the old military treatises and the epics themselves, they're described as being equal to, or sometimes, remarkably, even more powerful than many, many ordinary warriors combined.
More powerful than many combined. How many are we talking?
The specific capability often cited, and our sources note this as key to the rank, is the ability to engage and effectively fight multiple opponents simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Yes. Sometimes texts mention specific numbers, like 10,000 archers or other warriors, though that exact number can vary. The crucial concept is their disproportionate power, their ability to dominate the battlefield against significant numbers.
Wow. So it's not just theoretical skill, it's proven battlefield dominance against huge odds.
Precisely. It's a demonstrated capacity.
That really paints a picture. A Mahāratha isn't just skilled, they're like a one-person army almost, a force multiplier, capable of holding ground or breaking formations where others would just be overwhelmed.
That's a good way to put it, a force multiplier. And this verse 6, it leaves absolutely no doubt about whether the warriors it names fit this description.
How so? Is it explicit?
Completely explicit. The sources draw our attention right to the text of the verse itself. There's a definitive declaration in there.
What does it say?
It says, Sarva eva Mahāratha,
Sarva eva Mahāratha.
which, as rendered in Telugu in some sources, is Dankinyu Telutan Kontairo Samta.
And that means?
It means all of them are Mahārathas.
All of them. No exceptions in this group.
Exactly. It's a collective affirmation. This statement confirms, without any ambiguity, that Yudamanyu Uttamaja of Himanyu, as Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi are all designated with this extremely high level of martial distinction.
So they collectively share this elite status. Wow, it places them right in the top tier of warriors being introduced here.
Right, it is the critical moment in the narrative, yes.
Okay, so the verse gives us their names, and it establishes their shared elite status as Mahārathas. But you mentioned a nuance. The sources note something else.
Yes, and this is where it gets even more interesting, I think. While that collective title, Mahāratha, applies to all four groups, the verse then does something else. It chooses to highlight specific individual qualities for some of them.
Ah, so it adds another layer, beyond just their fighting rank.
Precisely. It gives us a hint of their individual character, or perhaps their specific type of strength, even within this elite group.
Okay, let's look at that. Who gets singled out?
Well, let's take Yudamanyu first.
Yuhamanyu. What does the verse say about him specifically? Our source material mention a Telugu term.
Yes, he's described using the Telugu term Shoyavantu,
Shoravantu.
and the corresponding Sanskrit term, which the sources also provide, is Vikranta.
That's Oryavanta.
Vikranta. And the translation given for that?
The translation provided is chivalrous.
Chivalrous. Okay, that's fascinating. So, beyond being a Mahāratha, capable of facing down legions, Yudamanyu is specifically highlighted for being chivalrous.
Think about what that adds. In the middle of describing warriors for a brutal war, this specific quality is pointed out.
It does seem quite specific. What might chivalrous Vikranta really add to how we understand his character, beyond just being a powerful fighter or brave, which you'd expect from a Mahāratha anyway?
Well, the sources give us the description, but we can definitely explore the implications, can't we? Chivalrous suggests more than just raw courage. It points towards courage guided by a certain code.
Like a code of honor. Exactly. Perhaps nobility or a particular grace, even in combat. It might imply a demeanor that combines bravery with, say, integrity or even courtesy, maybe even towards opponents. We don't know for sure from just the word, but it suggests a specific kind of virtue on the battlefield.
So it's not just about ferocity or tactical skill.
No, it seems to add a layer of moral or ethical character to his martial prowess. It distinguishes him as someone who fights not just effectively, but perhaps also, righteously or honorably in some way.
That really adds depth. He's not just a weapon, he's a warrior with a particular kind of virtue.
Interesting. Okay, who else gets a specific descriptor?
The next one mentioned is Uttamoja.
Right, Uttamoja. And he's described with a different term.
Indeed. The Telugu term used in the sources for him is Teryavantu.
Teryavantu.
And the Sanskrit equivalent given is Viryavan. That's the Sanskrit.
Viryavan. And how is that translated?
That one is translated as courageous. Okay, courageous. So Yudhamanyu is chivalrous, Vikranta, and Uttamaja is courageous, Viryavan. Now, chivalrous surely includes courage, right? And courageous might overlap with the spirit of chivalry. How do these terms differentiate? What specific aspect of bravery does courageous emphasize for Uttamaja, especially since they're both already established as powerful Mahārathas?
That's a really sharp observation. It speaks to the precision that these texts can have with language. While both terms certainly imply bravery, Viryavan, or courageous, seems to directly emphasize his inner strength, his spirit.
Like fortitude.
Yes, fortitude, a resolute refusal to be intimidated or to yield, especially when facing danger or hardship. It highlights his tenacity, his inner grit.
Okay.
So chivalrous, Vikrandanta for Uttamanyu, might suggest the style or the ethos of his bravery, brave and honorable, perhaps, whereas courageous Viryavan for Uttamaja seems to emphasize the intensity, the unwavering nature of his bravery itself.
Like sheer grit, fearlessness under pressure.
Exactly. Maybe his ability to endure hardship or just stand absolutely firm when things get tough. It feels like a subtle distinction, perhaps, between the manner of bravery and the raw, unshakable presence of it.
So the text is giving us these subtle but maybe important hints about the specific qualities defining these two warriors, even within their shared elite Maharath status.
It seems that way, yes.
Now, what about the other two groups mentioned, Abhimanyu and the sons of Draupadi? The sources made a specific point about them in this context, didn't they? Even though they are definitely Maharathas too.
Yes, they did. And it's an important clarification. The sources are careful to point out that while Abhimanyu, Sohadra, and the sons of Draupadi, are absolutely included in that collective statement, Sarva Eva Maharath.
All of them are Maharathas.
Right, confirming their status as top-tier warriors. However, this specific verse, verse 6, it does not attribute a distinct individual quality like chivalrous or courageous, Viryavan, to them, not in the same explicit way it does for Uttamanyu and Uttamanyu.
Ah, okay. So in this particular introduction, their immense prowess and bravery are primarily conveyed through that powerful collective Maharatha title itself.
That seems to be the case here.
It doesn't imply they lack chivalry or courage, of course. I mean, Abhimanyu's story later is full of both.
Oh, absolutely. Their later deeds in the epic certainly attest to those qualities.
Yeah.
But the focus of this verse, at this specific moment of introduction, seems to be on highlighting Uttamanyu's chivalry and Uttamanju's courage specifically, while firmly grouping all four under that elite warrior rank of Mahāratha.
So the text uses the collective term for the baseline high status of the whole group?
Yes.
But then adds a specific adjective for just two of them, maybe for narrative reasons or to hint at their particular roles or strengths?
That seems like a very plausible reading.
Yeah.
It's an efficient way to provide both that shared status and a little bit of individual flavor, wouldn't you say?
It really is efficient. And this brings us back to that core idea we started with, how this verse functions so effectively as a concise introduction.
Exactly. Let's sort of synthesize the elements we've unpacked.
Okay. You have the naming of the key warriors. Some, like Abhimanyu, are very well known, others maybe less so, but they're all presented as significant players.
Check. Then you have that powerful collective title, Mahāratha, applied immediately to all of them. That instantly establishes their elite status, their high rank.
Right. And then, as a third layer, you get these specific individual attributes highlighted for a couple of them. Chivalry for Uttamanyu, courage for Uttamaja.
It's really a masterclass in, well, economical storytelling. It's a technique you see often in these ancient epics, designed to quickly orient the audience and signal why certain characters matter.
And the sources explain how this combination makes verse 6 so effective.
Yes, they break it down. Firstly, as you said, it quickly identifies the key players by name. The audience immediately knows who we're talking about at this critical juncture.
No ambiguity there.
And secondly, crucially, by labeling them Mahārathas, the text immediately and powerfully establishes their high military rank and their overall fighting capability. It shouts, these are not just ordinary soldiers.
They're not just filling out the ranks.
Exactly. It communicates that these are forces to be reckoned with, major assets on the Pandava side. without needing pages and pages describing their training or past heroic deeds. The title itself acts as a powerful shorthand.
Shorthand for immense power and skill.
Precisely. And then thirdly, for Yuhamanyu and Ukamaja, it provides those extra specific character insights. It highlights their particular virtues, chivalry, courage.
Adding a personal dimension, hinting at their inner qualities alongside their battlefield prowess.
Right, so it's not just listing fighters, it's introducing significant individuals with specific noted virtues, even within that broad category of Mahāratha.
That multi-layered approach, but delivered so briefly, must have been incredibly efficient in these massive epics with huge casts of characters.
Think about it. Instead of needing, long chapters to describe the background and capabilities of each of these warriors individually, a title like Mahāratha, combined with a defining adjective like chivalrous or courageous, instantly conveys their significance, their skill level, and a key aspect of their character.
Preparing the audience for their important roles later on.
Absolutely. It sets expectations immediately. It's like the text is saying, okay, here's sort of the heavy hitters on this side. Remember these names. They're all top-tier fighters, and pay special attention to the noble spirit of this one and the unwavering bravery of that one.
It really does establish their importance and hints at the nature of their contribution. A foundational piece of character introduction for this group.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
As we navigate these ancient texts and really uncover these rich layers of meaning, even within what look like simple verses, it just highlights the huge value in taking the time for this kind of deep analysis.
It really does reward close reading.
And if you, listening right now, are finding this deep dive valuable, and you're perhaps keen to explore more knowledge, more learning resources that help you understand complex topics, I strongly recommend you visit https.techdohub.com.
Good suggestion.
They offer a wealth of resources designed specifically to help you deepen your understanding across all sorts of fields, much like we're trying to do here by unpacking this verse. So yeah, go check out the resources available over there at techdohub.com. You might find exactly what you need to fuel your own deep dives into the subjects you're passionate about.
Definitely worth a look. Now, returning to this concept of Mahāratha, maybe we can lean into the depth of this title a bit more, building on those consistent descriptions we found across the source material.
Okay, yeah, we've defined it, great chariot warrior, mighty. But let's think about the full weight of that in the context of how the Mahāratha portrays warfare.
It clearly implies a level of military hierarchy, a capability that's just far, far above the norm, right? The sources don't just say these guys are good fighters.
No, they specify that dominance against large numbers. That seems key.
It is absolutely key. That repeated emphasis in the sources on their ability to stand against significant odds, specifically, fighting multiple ordinary warriors simultaneously, that isn't just some minor detail. It feels like the defining characteristic of the rank itself.
So it signifies more than just superior individual skill.
Oh, much more. It signifies a strategic asset. Someone capable of, say, holding a flank pretty much single-handedly, or breaking an enemy charge that would scatter others, or maybe protecting key figures like kings or commanders.
When you think about the sheer scale of the armies described in the Mahabharata.
Wow, exactly. For one warrior to be considered equal to or even superior to thousands, that's a statement of truly exceptional power and influence on the battlefield. They become tactical anchors, the ones who can maybe rally troops by their presence alone or inflict damage completely out of proportion to their numbers.
So calling someone a Mahāratha isn't just, giving them a cool, fancy title. It's a serious military designation. It signals their potential impact on the actual outcome of battles.
Precisely. They aren't merely participants in the grand melee. They are pivotal forces. Individuals capable of genuinely turning the tide of the battle. They represent the absolute elite, the peak of martial prowess, as understood in that era's warfare.
Elite is the word. The best of the best.
Absolutely. In the chaos of a battle like Kurukshetra, having a Mahāratha on your side means you have, effectively, a commander-level fighter, someone whose very presence can influence the morale of both their own troops and the enemy's.
And the fact that this verse specifically groups these particular heroes together, Yuhamanyu, Uttamaja, Abhimanyu, Draupadi's sons, and labels them all collectively as Mahārathas, that's highly significant then.
Immensely significant. It immediately elevates this specific cohort in the eyes of the audience.
It tells us right at this point in the narrative that these individuals are being presented as part of the core group of highly capable, absolutely elite fighters on the Pandava side.
The verse is like an early signal flare to the audience. Pay attention.
These are important warriors. They possess supreme skill, incredible valor, and the ability to make a real, tangible difference in the war that's coming.
It perfectly sets the stage for their future actions, their sacrifices, everything they do later in the war. It gives the audience an immediate, powerful understanding of their significance, simply through the use of this one potent and probably well-understood title.
It's just fascinating how much information, how much expectation is condensed into just a few words in a text this ancient. Really efficient.
It truly is.
Now, okay, all this detail about specific warriors, their titles, their virtues, it's incredibly insightful for understanding the Mahabharata itself, obviously. But maybe we can connect this back to the listener. Why should you, listening today, care about these specific details from an ancient Indian epic? How does this connect to, well, your world?
That's a fair question. I mean, the context is ancient warfare, chariots, epic battles. It seems far removed.
Right. But the underlying concepts that this verse is highlighting, things like courage, skill, valor, the recognition of excellence, these are universal themes, aren't they? They resonate across time, across cultures.
Exactly. This deep dive isn't just about memorizing names or facts from an old story. It's about gaining insight into how these timeless virtues were defined, how they were highlighted in one of the world's most influential narratives.
It connects to broader themes that are still very applicable in our own lives today, I think.
Like what?
Well, think about the importance of developing capability, developing real skill in whatever field you pursue, or the necessity of showing bravery, courage, resilience when you're facing challenges, whether those are personal or professional or even societal challenges.
And the idea of recognizing excellence.
Yes, and the concept of recognizing and valuing excellence, merit in individuals. The text, by highlighting these warriors as Mahārathas and pointing out specific virtues, it really underscores the importance people place on these qualities for achieving significant outcomes, for making an impact.
So maybe you can frame this deep dive as gaining insight into how important figures were characterized back then, how valued capabilities like skill and courage were recognized and communicated in this foundational text.
Precisely. It gives us a lens, maybe, through which to view different definitions of heroism or leadership or personal strength as they were portrayed in this kind of epic literature. It shows us how these stories defined what it meant to be a truly formidable force, not just physically strong, but strong in character too.
It's a reminder, perhaps, that the qualities that lead to distinction, to making a real impact, skill, courage, virtue, these are perennial subjects of human focus and admiration.
Well said. They keep coming up again and again.
Absolutely. And just seeing how efficiently the Mahabharata conveys all of this with just a specific title and a couple of well-chosen adjectives, honestly, that's a lesson in powerful communication in itself.
It really is. A great deal is communicated with remarkable economy of language.
Okay, so to try and bring our deep dive today together then, what's the key takeaway?
I think the key takeaway is that verse 6 of the Mahabharata, while short, serves as this highly concise yet incredibly potent introduction.
An introduction to 4 key groups of warriors. Yudhamanyu, Uttamaja, Ahimanyu, identified as the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi.
Right. And by collectively labeling them all as Mahārathas, these mighty chariot warriors who possess exceptional skill, high fighting ability, and great valor, the verse immediately establishes their elite status and their significance on the battlefield.
And then it adds that extra layer of specific individual depth by highlighting Yudhamanyu as chivalrous, Vikranta, and Uttamaja as courageous, Dhiravan.
Exactly, offering these nuanced insights into their specific virtues, even within their shared high rank. It's just a remarkable example of how ancient epic poetry could efficiently introduce and characterize key figures, signaling their importance and capabilities to the audience right from the outset.
Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to maybe mull over based on what we've explored today and the source material we've been drawing on. Consider how ancient texts like the Mahabharata, dealing with these vast casts of characters and incredibly complex narratives, relied on specific, well-understood titles, military titles like Mahāratha, or character descriptors like Vikranta, chivalrous, and Viryavan, courageous. How did they use these brief, potent descriptions to instantly convey the immense power, the skill, and the specific virtues of key characters?
Making them memorable.
Exactly, making them memorable and understandable across thousands of years.
Yeah.
How did they translate these complex ideas about heroism, capability, and virtue into immediately graspable concepts just through these labels?
It really speaks volumes about the power of concise, impactful language, doesn't it? especially in shaping how we understand characters and their roles in these grand epic stories.
It definitely does. And if you enjoyed this exploration, digging into the depth of just a single verse, and you want to continue your own journey into fascinating topics or access valuable learning resources, please remember to visit https.techdohub.com.
There's always more to learn.
There really is. There's a whole world of knowledge waiting for you there at techdohub.com, ready to support your own pursuit of understanding.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been fascinating.
It really has. And thank you for listening to the TechEduHub.com online podcast.